He wasn't like any delivery driver I'd ever seen before. The second I saw his grin, too wide, too forced, I froze. His uniform looked stolen, his eyes wouldn't blink, and the way he held the pizzas, it felt more like bait than food. I never thought a simple pizza order could make my blood run cold. And the truly terrifying question is, what would you do if the person standing at your door wasn't there to deliver, but to hunt? Tonight, we're diving into true food delivery horror stories that actually happened. So stick close, and keep watching until the end to find out what happened, before it was too late. But before we start, make sure to subscribe or follow so you never miss any new chilling releases. If you're enjoying the content, hit like, drop a comment, and share this video. Let's see how many of you truly love this kind of episodes. Now here's your challenge. One of the stories you're about to hear might not be real. It could be completely made up, or maybe all of them are true. Watch till the end, try to spot the fake, and leave your guess in the comments. And as for last episode's fake story, it was story number 1. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. And now, let's dive into the darkness together. This happened about 4 years ago, back when I was living alone in a small 2-story apartment complex on the edge of town. The kind of place where everyone more or less minded their own business. Not sketchy enough to feel unsafe, but definitely not the kind of neighborhood where you left your doors unlocked. It was a Friday night, and I had just finished a long week at work. The weather was cold, damp, the kind where you don't feel like cooking. So I opened the delivery app and ordered my usual from a local pizza place. 1 large pepperoni, nothing fancy. I'd ordered from them dozens of times without any problems. The estimated delivery time was around 30 minutes. I put on a show and zoned out, expecting the usual knock at the door. About 40 minutes passed, then I got a call from an unfamiliar number. Normally the drivers just use the app's messaging system, so that was my first red flag. I answered anyway, and a man's voice came through. "Hey, I'm outside with your order," he said. His voice was deep, oddly cheerful, almost too upbeat for someone delivering pizza on a cold night. I asked him where exactly he was parked, and he told me he was right out front near the street lamp. That sounded normal enough, so I grabbed my wallet and headed downstairs. But as soon as I opened the building door and stepped onto the stairs, I felt uneasy. There he was, a man standing under the dim orange glow of a flickering street lamp at the curb. He was holding 2 pizza boxes, both open, angled so the contents were visible. Steam curled into the night air, and I could smell pepperoni and melted cheese even from the stairs. But something was off. For one, his uniform didn't match the restaurant's branding. He was wearing brown coveralls with a green cap, nothing like the black polo and red logo the actual drivers wore. His outfit looked like a thrift store version of a delivery uniform. And then there was his face. He was smiling, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was wide, forced, almost like he was straining to hold it in place. His lips stretched thin, showing crooked yellowing teeth, and his eyes didn't match the expression. They were fixed on me, unblinking, intense in a way that made my skin crawl. "Got your pizzas right here," he said. His tone was rehearsed, like he'd been waiting to say it. I stopped halfway down the stairs. "Pizzas?" I asked. "I only ordered 1. Without missing a beat, still grinning, he tilted his head slightly and said my full name. Not just my first, my full name, clear as day. I can't explain the chill that shot down my spine when he said it. My full name wasn't on the delivery instructions. At least, not in the way he said it. I tried to stay calm. Yeah, that's me. But I didn't order 2. He didn't react, didn't explain. He just kept holding the boxes open as if waiting for me to come closer. Something in my gut told me not to. That's when I noticed movement in the shadows across the street. Parked near the curb were 2 scooters, both unmarked. I hadn't seen them when I first stepped outside, but now I could make out their silhouettes under the trees. No lights, no riders, just sitting there. The man must have noticed me glance at them because his grin twitched wider, almost like he wanted me to know he wasn't alone. I forced a smile of my own and said, "Let me just grab some cash." Then I turned and walked quickly back up the stairs. The entire way up, I felt his eyes burning into my back. Once inside my apartment, I locked the door immediately and peeked through the peephole. He was still standing there at the gate, holding the boxes open, staring at the building like a statue. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my phone and called the pizza place. A young woman answered, and when I asked about my order, she sounded confused. It says it was delivered 20 minutes ago by our driver, Adam," she said. "Is there a problem?" My stomach dropped. I explained what was happening, that there was a man outside with 2 pizzas claiming to be their driver, but he didn't match the uniform and had called me from a personal phone. She immediately said, "That's not one of our guys." When I pressed her, she confirmed their driver had already completed my delivery earlier that night, which meant whoever was outside wasn't just confused. He was pretending to be a delivery man on purpose. By the time I worked up the nerve to check the window, the man was gone. So were the scooters. The street was empty, like they'd never been there. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound in the hallway made me flinch, convinced he'd come back. The next day, I talked to my neighbors. A couple of them mentioned seeing the scooters too, parked on and off near the building over the past week, but no one thought much of it. One neighbor said he saw a man in a green cap hanging around the alley 2 nights earlier, smoking or waiting for someone. I reported everything to the police, but nothing came of it. No arrests, no follow-ups, nothing. The officer I spoke to said it sounded like a scam attempt. Criminals posing as delivery workers to get people to step outside or open their doors. But the detail that haunts me is how he knew my name. My full name. Did he somehow hack the app? Did someone inside the restaurant give it out? Or was I specifically targeted? I'll never know. But one thing's for sure. I haven't ordered food for delivery since that night. I'd rather go hungry than ever risk opening my door to a stranger in a uniform again. Back in community college, I worked at a little pizza place that sat off a rural highway. It was in one of those strip malls that never really thrived, just a half-empty row of small businesses surrounded by farmland. The store somehow stayed open, though we ran on the bare minimum crew. Late nights especially, it was usually just 2 of us, one making pizzas, the other running deliveries. Wednesday and Thursday nights were the easiest shifts, quiet, almost boring. Maybe 1 or 2 orders before closing. We used to joke that we were getting paid just to sit around and trash talk each other. But one night changed that for me. It was close to 11 p.m., maybe 30 minutes before we shut down, when the phone rang. We both looked at it, surprised. Nobody ever ordered that late. My coworker was outside in his car, having a smoke before cleanup, so I was the one who picked up. The voice on the other end didn't sound like anyone I recognized, which was odd. In a small county, you get to know the regulars and their usual orders. But what really caught me off guard wasn't that he was new, it was what he wanted. "Do you guys sell hamburger?" he rasped. The guy's voice sounded wrecked, like he'd been smoking 3 packs a day since middle school. "This is a pizza place," I told him. "We don't do burgers, but I can read off the menu if you'd like." He cut me off. "Number, I just want hamburger meat." That threw me. We did have ground beef for the cheeseburger pizza, but he didn't want a pizza, just the meat. I tried clarifying, thinking maybe he meant toppings. Nope, he wanted it raw. I actually laughed a little, thinking he was screwing with me. But he kept pressing, his tone almost desperate. "I'll pay extra. Just put some raw hamburger in a container, please." The way he said "please" gave me chills. It wasn't a normal request. It was pleading, like he needed it. I hesitated, debating whether it was even legal to sell raw meat like that. My coworker, high as a kite, just shrugged when I asked him. Finally, I gave in. The guy promised a big tip, and I figured, hey, people pay for weird stuff all the time. So I packed up about $10 worth of ground beef in a container, punched in the address, and headed out. The drive was about 15 minutes. I'd been delivering in that area for over a year, but I had never seen this house before. It sat at the end of a long dirt road, half hidden by trees. When my headlights hit it, I swear my stomach dropped. It looked like a haunted farmhouse. Boards sagging, paint peeling, porch barely holding together. I remember thinking, this is the start of a horror movie. I'm the dumb delivery kid who doesn't make it past the intro. I parked, grabbed the container, and walked up the creaking porch. No doorbell, so I knocked. The man who answered wasn't what I expected. I pictured some old backwoods hermit. Instead, he looked normal. Almost too normal. Sweater vest, neatly combed hair, clean shaven. He had this suburban dad look that clashed hard with the decaying house behind him. I handed over the container. I couldn't resist asking, "So, why raw hamburger instead of, pizza?" He smiled faintly and shook his head. "Because I eat it raw." I thought he was joking, but he cracked open the container right there, lifted it to his nose, and took this long, deep inhale. The expression that spread across his face was wrong. His eyes fluttered closed, his lips curled in something between a smile and a shudder. He let out a low sigh, almost like he was savoring it too much. I froze, feeling uncomfortable in a way I can't even describe. When he opened his eyes again, they looked glassy, distant. He fished some crumpled bills from his wallet, an uneven stack of ones, and handed them to me. $11. "Generous tip," he said softly. I mumbled a thanks, eager to leave. But as I turned, something caught my eye inside the house. At the far end of the dim hallway, peeking out from behind a doorframe, were a pair of eyes. Wide, terrified, set deep in a small face. It was a kid. I don't know what possessed me, but I asked, "That your son?" The man's demeanor shifted instantly. His smile vanished, his jaw clenched. He spun around toward the hallway, and the child's face disappeared as if yanked back. When he turned back to me, he didn't say a word. He just stared, a cold, furious stare that made my skin crawl. I thanked him quickly, backing away off the porch without turning my back. He just stood there, watching, silent as I left. The drive back felt endless. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. As soon as I got back to the shop, I called 911. I didn't know exactly what I'd seen, but that kid's eyes, they were begging for help. A deputy later told me he checked it out. Said the guy was fine, nothing suspicious, house seemed normal. But I don't believe that. I saw the fear in that kid's eyes. I felt the way the man's mood snapped when I mentioned him. The cop might have walked away, but I can't. To this day, I still think about that night. About the way the man sniffed that raw meat like it was some kind of drug. About the kid silently staring at me, desperate. And the thought that haunts me most, the one that keeps me up sometimes, is the possibility that somewhere, that kid still wonders, why didn't he help me? Why didn't that man help me? I drive for DoorDash part-time, usually late at night. It works for me since I'm a night owl, and the roads are quieter after midnight. Most nights are uneventful, just me, some music, and the occasional weird delivery. But one night last year, something happened that I still can't shake. It was close to 1 a.m. when the order came in. I hadn't been getting much, so I accepted without even reading the details. Pickup was at a 24/7 McDonald's, maybe 10 minutes from where I was parked. I grabbed the bag, clicked picked up, and let the GPS guide me. The drop-off was about 15 minutes away. The drive itself was silent, the kind of quiet where your brain goes on autopilot. No cars, no people, not even a raccoon crossing the street. I was half zoned out until I got close to the address. That's when things started feeling off. The app took me into what looked like a business park, but it wasn't the normal kind. Usually, office complexes have trimmed grass, bright lights, maybe a security car rolling through. This place looked abandoned. The buildings were run down, their paint faded and cracked. Weeds grew up through broken sidewalks. The parking lot lights buzzed weakly, barely illuminating anything. Still, I figured maybe some company inside kept odd hours. The GPS led me around to the back of one low, one-story building, the kind of place with loading docks and metal exit doors. Right then, I got a text from the customer. "Yeah, that's me. Just bring it to the gray door on your left." I glanced over. Sure enough, there was a plain gray metal door. No windows. No sign. Just a door. I texted back a quick "okay" and grabbed the food. Walking up, I realized how silent everything was. No machines humming, no traffic in the distance, nothing. Just me and this ugly gray door. Then another message buzzed through. "Bring it inside for me." That gave me pause. Normally, deliveries are left at the door. Even when customers want you to hand it off, they meet you at the entrance. I stood there for a second, debating, then told myself I was overthinking it. People can be lazy. Maybe the guy didn't want to put on shoes. So I pushed the door open. The inside was dim. Not pitch black, but the overhead lights were either off or dead. Only these little energy-saving bulbs glowed every 20 feet, throwing sickly yellow light down the hall. It smelled stale, like old carpet and dust. I stepped just inside, still holding the bag, waiting for someone to show. Instead, I heard a sound behind me. Click. I spun around. The door I'd come through was shut. I tried the handle. Locked. Every nerve in my body lit up. I yanked harder. Nothing. My chest tightened as the reality sank in. Someone had just locked me in. I dropped the bag and whispered, "What the hell?" My only option was forward. The hall stretched maybe 50 feet, with another door at the far end. I forced myself to move, footsteps echoing far too loud in the silence. Halfway down, I heard it. Another door opening somewhere deeper in the building. Then the sound of it closing softly, followed by footsteps, not walking, moving with purpose, coming closer. My adrenaline spiked. I bolted to the end of the hallway and shoved through the door, finding myself in another corridor, this one with a row of dark office rooms on either side. Without thinking, I slipped into the first one and crouched behind a desk. The footsteps reached the door I had just come through. I covered my mouth to stop my breathing from giving me away. Whoever it was pushed inside, their pace quickening as they headed toward the spot I had been moments earlier. They didn't linger. Their steps rushed straight past, back toward the gray door. That was my chance. I sprinted out the opposite way, down the hall, praying there'd be an exit. At the very end was a glowing red exit sign. I crashed through, nearly tripping as I stumbled out into the night air. I didn't stop to look back. I jumped into my car, slammed it into drive, and peeled out of that parking lot. Once I was a few blocks away, I pulled over and called 911. My voice shook as I tried to explain, but I could tell the dispatcher didn't fully get it. They promised to send someone. When an officer finally met me 20 minutes later, we went back. The place was empty. No cars, no lights, no people. But the officer told me something that made my blood run cold. That entire office complex had been out of service for years. The building I'd gone into hadn't been leased or occupied by any legitimate business in at least 5. No cameras, no security, just an abandoned shell. I asked the cop what could have happened. He just shook his head. "You probably don't want to know. I've thought about it a lot since then. Whoever lured me there knew how the app worked. They knew I wouldn't question an order late at night, and they knew how to lock that door. If I hadn't moved when I did, if I'd frozen or hidden in the wrong spot, I don't think I'd be here writing this. I don't take late night orders anymore." If you've made it to the end of this video, let me know in the comments which story creeped you out the most, and if you could survive only one of them, which one would it be? Don't forget to drop your guess. Which story do you think was the fake one? Also, if you enjoyed the episode, hit super thanks if you're on YouTube, or send us some stars if you're on Facebook to show some love and make your comments stand out. Want to go next level? Get early access to upcoming episodes, exclusive members-only content, and much more by joining our YouTube membership or becoming a Patreon supporter. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's waiting there for you. Don't forget to like, share, and catch up on our previous episodes. And now, Stay tuned for the next horror episode.